Hello, everyone. Welcome to the online podcast of History 101 World Civilizations. My name is Shengyu Yang. I am your instructor of the course. And today we are going to begin our course by talking about the history and theory of human evolution. I understand that in the United States, human evolution is not a universally accepted thing. This is why in our history class, we are going to try to see the evidences that scientists have for us to argue and to support their idea of human evolution. Until the time of Charles Darwin and his theory of evolution, people didn't really think about the giant apes and humans as related. In spite of the similarities that we share with those giant apes in our skeleton structures as well as social behaviors, the idea that humans and apes could come from the same ancestor was just shocking. Even today, around 40% of people living in the United States, according to surveys, still don't believe in the theory of evolution and that humans could come from the apes. But scientists has been telling us otherwise. Using taxonomy, which is a systematic way to classify species into different orders, families, tribes, they have been continuously classifying humans and apes as in the same tribe or family. In other words, we are related, and while chimpanzee is a close cousin who share, in analogy, the same grandparents with us, the gorilla is a more distant cousin who share the same great-grandparents with us. However, although we are cousins with chimpanzees and gorillas according to the theory of evolution, what does it actually mean to be human? How are we different from those giant apes? Well, some people may argue about things like we are creative, we can do art, we can do music, and we can even also do history. Or some people are also talking about our capacities of having language skills or our capacity of having a larger brain and the benefits that the brain brings to us. Today we are going to talk about all of them later on. But first, what do those scientists who argue for human evolution think about the unique characteristics of us, of being human? What are the criteria that scientists think that would qualify a fossil finding as a candidate of our ancestors, or even into the classification of genus Homo? Well, the scientists argue bipedalism, tools using as well as making, language, and morphology are critical categories for a fossil finding to be considered for its place in the genus Homo. Bipedalism is the ability that ancient humans have to walk on 2 feet habitually. In order for the 2 feet to support the whole weight of the body, our ancient human ancestors have developed very strong joints in both their knees and their feet. Compare with gorillas, who have much stronger lower body muscles at their sides and their legs. We as humans do not need to deploy those muscles. when we are standing still in a relaxed position. By freeing our hands and arms from walking on the ground, bipedalism gifted humans the ability to carry stuff in their hands. We can carry weapons for self-defense as well as water or food supplies when traveling long distance. Those recently freed hands were also used to make tools as well as using tools. In the beginning, early humans usually used stone tools as well as bone tools, which are readily available in nature. Those earliest tools are naturally sharp and do not require much refinement. Gradually, early humans learned to make more precise tools for specialized tasks, as we can see from the picture in the PowerPoint. The knowledge of those tool-making techniques, as well as other skills such as making fire, were passed on through language to the next generation. Language also enabled modern humans to form complicated social structures that can easily gather 100 or even 1,000 people. The last criteria, morphology, is a way to judge the fossil findings according to modern human looks. Do we have similarly shaped skulls, or do we share less developed canine teeth? These are the kind of traits the scientists were looking for. So, what are their findings? Scientists and paleoanthropologists tell us that from as far as 3.5 million years ago, Australopithecus afarenus were already bipedal. Australopithecus is the name of a genus that belongs to the same tribe as us, the genus Homo. Around 2 million years ago, the first species in the genus Homo, Homo habilis, were already using tools and making tools. Yet it was not until about 300,000 years ago, when Homo sapiens arrived at the scene, that we can safely say that Homo genius finally has the capacity of language. However, where did the Homo sapiens come from? Which species was the one that immediately precedes Homo sapiens before it evolves into Homo sapiens? Unfortunately, we don't have a very good answer for this kind of question, as our family tree is more a bush than a tree. There are multiple origins that we don't know what leads to what. Many of them could be just dead ends in history. What we do know, however, is that through this long time frame of evolution from around 4 million years ago until modern day humans, there are some general trends that can be observed, such as humans are having a larger and larger brain volume. Scientists calculated those brain volumes based on the fossils of the skulls that they have excavated from the sites. And as we can see from the chart below, the data quite consistently point to an increase in brain volume. Having a larger brain, however, has its own advantages as well as disadvantages. We have already talked about most of the advantages a larger brain gives us. So now we are going to focus on the disadvantages. The brain is only about 2% of our total body weight, yet it consumes about 20% of energy in terms of oxygen flow and blood flow. And this is when the brain is not doing any heavy duty work. When we are busy studying, trying to prepare for a coming examination, the brain is going to be even more energy hungry. The second disadvantages of having a larger brain is the difficulty of childbirth. A large brain infant cannot easily pass through the channel, which is already made narrower because we humans are bipedals. And back in 300,000 years ago, there were no C-section to help if anything went wrong, not even any working functional medication to save the woman and her children. So, the species that all modern humans belong is called Homo sapiens. But what about the others? Remember, we used to have like 15 to 20 other homos in addition to ourselves. What happened to those other hominids, such as the loving Neanderthal we have here in the picture? Well, according to DNA analysis, all of them went extinct. So, Homo sapiens, that is us, the modern human, is one of the loneliest species in the world because all other species under our genus Homo went extinct. However, how did they disappear? And what are the roles that us Homo sapiens have in their distinction? How are we actually related since both Neanderthals and Homo sapiens coexisted in Afro-Eurasia continent, especially the European part, around 300,000 to 200,000 years ago? Did we eat together, live together, or even have children together? Thanks to the science and new tools in DNA analysis, we now know how exactly Homo sapiens and Neanderthals interact with each other. Initially, when analyzing the mitochondrial DNA and the Y chromosome DNA, which are passed through either mother side or father's side, scientists concluded that because the DNAs are so different between Neanderthals and us Homo sapiens, we cannot have been ancestors of each other. In other words, Homo sapiens and Neanderthals could not have had children together. However, as DNA analysis improves in its accuracy as well as methodology, we now learn that by examining the nuclear DNA, which contains 100% of the human genome, rather than those microcodium or Y chromosome DNAs, modern humans typically has something around 2% of their DNAs inherited from the Neanderthals. Not only do we carry Neanderthal DNA, we also have the DNAs of other earlier human groups. Well, the reason why modern humans inherited those earlier DNAs is because that by migrating into areas where these early humans lived, modern humans need to adapt to the local food, local viruses, as well as local climate. By being there a long time before the arrival of Homo sapiens, Neanderthals and others has got accustomed to the local conditions, and that's why their DNAs that got them accustomed to these serious conditions was very helpful for our modern ancestors, the Homo sapiens, to survive in their newly migrated areas. This process of exchanging DNAs is called adaptive integration. So, in spite of having so many languages and cultures and also skin colors, all modern humans are Homo sapiens. We are the same species, and all the ideas about race are socially constructed. These constructions, though not natural, are also an important part of human history. One might argue it is culture that made us human, and not just animals with nature. In the following weeks, we are going to examine the world civilizations in their own terms. That will be all for today. Thank you.